unbanked, payday loans, and a credit score in the 500s. These are things we rarely hear about in the financial independence community. And that's because it seems impossible to dig out of something like this and still gain some level of financial stability. So, in this episode, I'm bringing you someone that did. And she was open enough to sit down with me on location in Madison, Wisconsin, and talk about it. She gets into the bad and the ugly of her struggles, but also all the good she's doing now around financial wellness and education, something that's near and dear to my heart. Her name is Afra Smith, and I met her at the Wealth Empowerment Conference that she founded 5 years ago. I was there as the keynote speaker, but I think I gained way more from her extraordinary story than I ever could have given that day. She's a late starter that had a lot to overcome, but now she is unstoppable. Take a listen.
I was upside down in my car paying 23% interest on a car loan. I had 10 to 12 payday loans, and at one point in time, I decided not to pay them back, and that landed me on ChexSystems, and I became unbanked, unable to get a checking account. On top of all of that, I was dealing with a lot of anxiety and depression, and at one point in my life, thoughts of suicide. I started very late. I would say that when I hit sort of my low bottom, I was late 30s, right? And I realized at the moment that I was dependent upon the outside world to kind of fix my circumstances, and that I had access to the tools that I needed. I just didn't know how to go about doing that. And that put me in front of my first financial coach, and that was life-changing for me. Yeah, I was hanging out with two friends, and they were discussing a mutual acquaintance, dirty shoes. And in the moment, I kind of felt a little bit of offense to that, because I realized that they were judging her based on her shoes. And I know her personally. I know what her bank account looks like. I know that she has property. I know how much money she has. We talk about those types of things. And so I realized that they were not just trying to define her value. They were also defining their own. It was an aha moment for me that it wasn't that she was lacking anything. It was how they were viewing her based on her shoes.
Welcome to Catching Up to FI, a podcast on mindset, money, and life for late starters of any age on their journey to financial independence. I'm Bill, and I'm a late starter.
I'm Jackie, and I'm also a late starter, and we're your host. We're here to help you on your journey to financial independence, no matter where you're starting.
We're going to talk to experts, other late starters, and explore topics related to our mission.
Join us as we catch up to FI together. Welcome back to Catching Up to FI. I'm Jackie Cummings-Koski, and I am on location today. This was an amazing event. April is Financial Literacy Month, so that's when we're recording it. And I've got my friend Afra here. Afra, you just had an amazing conference. I just had to capture this because I am so taken by what you have created. You're even still working your day job, but you've created this extraordinary organization and this event. You've got amazing support. So I'd like to start by asking about the organization and the event.
Yeah. So my name is Afra Smith. I am founder of the Melanin Project and creator of now 4th annual Wealth Empowerment Conference, all near and dear to me, based on my own personal story and lived experience.
Yeah, and I want to hear about that story.
So I'm very passionate about the work that I do around financial wellness. Everything is based just on my personal lived experience. I had a credit score in the mid-500s. I was upside down in my car paying 23% interest on a car loan. I had 10 to 12 payday loans, and at one point in time, I decided not to pay them back. And that landed me on ChexSystems, and I became unbanked, unable to get a checking account. On top of all of that, I was dealing with a lot of anxiety and depression, and at one point in my life, thoughts of suicide. And so everything about that story has led me here, and I've become very passionate about giving back to other people, and that has birthed the Wealth Empowerment Conference.
Yeah, and so thank you for sharing all of that. And you're a late starter. Would you consider yourself a late starter?
Absolutely. I started very late. I would say that when I hit sort of my low bottom, I was late 30s, right? And I realized at the moment that I was dependent upon the outside world to kind of fix my circumstances, and that I had access to the tools that I needed. I just didn't know how to go about doing that. And that put me in front of my first financial coach, and that was life-changing for me.
I was going to ask, What was the turning point? Like, why did you decide to do something different? Did something happen?
I was at my job and I applied for a role that I just knew that I was going to get. And they actually promoted someone over me who was less experienced and newer to the company. And that just sent me over the edge. I went home that evening, I cried. And the next morning I woke up and I had this aha moment. And it was like, Afra, what are you doing? And it was a reminder to myself that I had everything that I needed to be successful. I just wasn't using what I had. And so that landed me on my friend's couch, explaining that I was tired and overwhelmed. And she said, you should go talk to Sister Tracy Smith. She's a financial coach. And I said, really? This is a person that was known to me, that had been in my life for a long time. But of course, all the anxiety started around putting my financial story out. And I ended up in front of her and she shifted the landscape. She taught me simply how to budget. And from there, everything shifted in my life.
Wow. So that's extraordinary. And normally there is something like that that has happened. So when you hit the rock bottom, you decided you need to do something different.
Yeah.
What came after that? Like, how did you know what to even do next?
I think it happened spiritually. I just so happened to be confiding in the right person. So I feel like it was a spiritual connection between me and this person, and then her to connect me with the right resource. But I think a part of the process is being disciplined enough to actually take action. I think sometimes we walk around, we have issues and problems, and we don't seek help. We just kind of manage, we just kind of deal with it, or we sit in that fear and doubt. And for me, it was, I don't want to live like this anymore. I'm tired of living like this. There has to be more to life. I could feel that in my body. So I feel like the Spirit led me to the right person, and happened to be one of my close friends who made an introduction to someone who had been in my life for a long time.
Wow. And you didn't just turn it around. You created something very special. Tell us about that.
Something took over me. It became a life of its own. I started to recognize that not only through data for Black women, that my trajectory is actually supposed to end up that way. You know, when I looked at the data, it was eerily similar to my story. And then I started to work with more Black women, and I recognized the same symptoms and experience in them. And so I asked myself, what could I do to make this bigger and also connect with more people at one time? And so this idea of a conference was birthed. I had no idea whether it was going to work. I just had faith and a vision. And the first year of the conference, it sold out. And that's when I knew that I was on to something in my local community.
Okay, you know what everybody's asking, how on earth, the first year you created this conference, so what is the name of the organization?
So the name of my organization is the Melanin Project, and we put on the annual Wealth Empowerment Conference.
Okay, and so what was your idea to focus on finances, financial literacy? Like, what was your big vision, and what do you think attracted that many people to where you sold out?
I think what attracted people is my story. It's relatable, right? I was being very honest about an experience that people have made taboo, right? If we know majority of people are paycheck to paycheck, why are we not having more discussions about it or leaning ourselves out of it? And so my goal with the conference was, because of my story, even when I had access to credit and money, I didn't know what to do with it. I had to continuously research. And so I wanted to create something that acted as a vessel to connect people to other things. And I didn't want to focus on just the data. I really wanted to focus on lived experience, right? That emotional connection to the money, but also the educational pieces to get people to build from where they are. And so that was a very important construct to me, to make sure that it stayed in that place and where we were being more rounded about wealth building, right? We can hit all the various pillars because people may want to do different things with the money that they have built for themselves. So my idea was just a vessel. And I think my story coming out on social media, it attracted people to the brand itself. And then the speaker lineups that I'm starting to put in these places, again, are relatable, right? These are folks who have been through a journey and now they're giving back through their stories.
Wow. So you're doing this while you're still working a full-time job?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Was that tough?
You know, it can be. I would say the first 2 years were a lot of work because, again, I didn't know what I was doing. And so you have to build that structure. You have to make all the mistakes. But I think it's important that I share that, yes, I burned out, but I've learned how to be harmonious with my approaches with the work. And I think a part of the journey of building your financial house is also taking care of yourself mentally, emotionally, physically. And so I'm in the gym 6 days a week. I'm resting. I'm eating well. I do heavy spiritual practice. And I'm passionate. I think my passion drives me to continue to work. And this is like my baby. So I want to continue to grow it and groom it. And also seeing people's life shift are things that I think have helped me continue the work, to continue the journey.
Wow. Now, you mentioned the gym. Now, don't pretend we don't see them big guns you got over there. Now, you came out when you kicked it off, and you're in the gym and you got some arms on you. You just got to give us a quick little, oh, look at that.
No, and I'll tell people this is a tie into my mental health. Like the way that I keep my mental health going is in the gym. And I didn't show up just for the body. I showed up for my mental health, for my mind. There's so much that you unpack when you're just taking care of yourself physically. And I think the body changes, they just happen with that. But I absolutely know that this is a connection to my house, my building, and me being able to continue this work in the way that I'm doing. It also inspires other people to hit the gym too.
Yeah, and that's so powerful. And I love that you're showing them off, because how warm it is. So we're in Madison, Wisconsin. How warm is it in Madison, Wisconsin?
I think we're like 30, 40s today.
Yeah, so it's cold. And you're like, you know what? Never mind about that. I'm still showing these arms.
And I have the pleasure of perimenopause. So, that adds value to me having hot flashes throughout the day. So I needed an outfit where I can put on and put off as needed. So I have a light jacket somewhere.
Oh, there you go. There you go. And it's nice and warm in here.
Yeah.
So I have another really important question, especially as a late starter. What about the financial part of putting on something like this? I walked into the venue, and it's True Stage, right? Mm-hmm. It almost looked like a modern museum. Yeah. It was beautiful. You had lunch for everyone. There was tables, not a low budget by any stretch, but you got partners. Tell me how you did that.
I think it's really relationship building and finding organizations that are connected to the mission to eradicate wealth disparities, which is a mission of the Melanin Project. And so really being able to sit down in front of these folks and cultivate those relationships and share your vision is important. There'll be some people that might not be on board for what you're doing, and that's okay. But I think you have to move around and connect with people who are on that mission to serve or have a connection to what it is that you're doing. And so it's because of these sponsors like True Stage, Madison Gas Electric, and Summit Credit Union that I'm able to make the conference accessible. The tickets today were $47. And I'm also able to offer scholarships to people who can't afford the venue, or people come in to volunteer to help. And it's because of that we're able to have food, right? We're able to have all the material that we need, and to bring in amazing speakers like yourself to come in here and provide what is needed for people to feel inspired and to take that next step in their wealth building journey.
Yeah, I was so honored that you asked me to speak. We have a mutual friend, Bob Wynn, and that's how this space works. We're all wanting to give back from what we've learned about financial literacy, financial education, the whole physical health and wealth, just all that goes together. So it was just great being here. And like I was saying, when I got on stage, I'm like, just call me the napkin in the wind, because I am blown away. So I'm just so amazed. So you mentioned some of your partners. Can you just give them a shout out again? Because I feel like stuff like this just cannot happen without not only the financial backing, but it sounds like they truly supported you in many other ways to even make this happen. Who are some of those sponsors?
True Stage is our presenting sponsor this year, and the venue, the food, all the things that they have done behind the scenes to just help pull this event together. I am so grateful for the support that they have offered the last 3 years. Madison Gas Electric is a local utility company here. They are also heavy on community and have been with me for the past 4 years as a foundational sponsor. And then there's Summit Credit Union, who's a regional credit union here in our area. They have a huge focus on financial wellness and being a community, and they are out here not only providing financial education externally here, but they have also provided some educators to come into this environment today. And so again, I couldn't do this event without their support.
Oh yeah, can you talk to us about the format of the conference? Because you had several different components. Because I'm thinking about those people out there, many of them could be late starters, where they are looking for their mission and what do they want to do now that they have woken up and they're getting their finances together. So how was this set up? And if you could give any ideas or thoughts about how this could be repeated in other communities?
One of the things that I'll say is to make it relatable. I'm very sort of picky about who lands on the main stage in breakout sessions. I want to make sure that there are people who understand the value of what we're doing, but that they're able to provide either some resources, connection, or something that's relatable, right? These are folks that are actually doing this work in the community. They want to eradicate wealth disparities. They want people investing and owning. And so I'm very mindful of that. I think the main stage itself cultivates that lived experience. So you're going to get a little bit of lived experience and you're going to get a little bit of education. And the breakout sessions are more about what you as an individual may want to get more information about based on where you are. So it could be a person who's interested in estate planning because you need to build a trust. You want a little deeper dive into retirement planning and how to go invest in stock market, or you need a mindset grounding. You know, there's even a lady here that's doing spiritual practice about, you know, how to steward your money. You're going to get a combination of that in the 12 breakout sessions that we may have. And then the main stage, again, is kind of that mindset, lived experience, and a combination of a little bit of education to empower people. So I think that's typically the format that I've used traditionally. Sometimes you can do panels, but panels, again, they also take away from the individual speakers that are sitting there. So I don't do a lot of panels, but I think it can be duplicated. And when you're first starting out, one of the recommendations I would have is to start small and kind of grow from there. Again, I like the quaintness of an event, the intimacy of an event, to making sure that people are not uncomfortable. They don't feel judged or criticized regarding where they may be at in their journey. Because of my experience, I wanted to make sure that got mitigated right away.
Okay, so let's jump back into your story. I don't hear people talking about payday loans enough, but it is something that happens. I know people, you had that yourself. So that's like, you know, rock bottom.
Yeah.
And so you overcame that and a lot of other things. You created this wonderful organization. You got this conference going on. So what's the balance now between your day job and this project that you have going on in the conference?
Yeah.
So tell us the split with that so we can get a better understanding.
So I work full time Monday through Friday, and the work that I do with the Melanin Project, I mean, the conference is the largest event. It's my signature event that I do every year. And so that usually takes about 5 or 6 months of planning. Throughout the rest of the year, you may see me doing some keynote presentations throughout the community, or I may be doing some financial workshops. And I find balance either by during evenings or weekends. I'm doing also financial coaching. You know, I do get engaged to help people solely with budgeting. I don't go beyond budgeting. So I teach people how to budget, manage their debt, and save. Anything beyond that, I make a referral out for those types of ancillary things they may need. And so during the week, Monday through Friday, I'm working. You know, there may be times where I have to take off my job to go and do an event or speak or do a workshop. But most of the time, it's evenings and weekends. I'm accommodating single moms. They may be working during the day, and the only time they can connect is an evening or a weekend. And so I find good harmony. I think the thing that I do is also I learned the power of no. So if I'm overwhelmed or I have too much going on, I either have to push them back or just tell them that I'm not available. So I find good harmony in the way that I'm working to help support my community, but also to take care of myself as I'm engaging in this work.
So how long did it take you from the time you hit rock bottom, you woke up, to the time where you started the Melanin Project and started doing the conferences? How long did it take that transition?
I would say probably about a good 12 years, because my payday loan situation actually happened in Texas. And the reason why I got so bad is because Texas, when you get payday loans and you don't pay them back, they are not legally allowed to garnish your check. In some states, they allow for that garnishment. And so it took a little bit longer for those payday loans to hit in the way that they did. And my strategy with those payday loans was to take them out, and I couldn't pay them back. So I closed my bank account, not realizing some of the bank accounts popped back open. That's how I landed on ChexSystems. And so some of the payday loans being on my credit profile, along with other credit card blemishes, that took me a while to pay off. But I also had the student loan debt burden. But over time, what was happening is I was paying stuff off and my credit started to go up. And then once I arrived to Wisconsin, I had started a little bit of the work, but I didn't have the foundation necessary to complete the process. So that's when I met this financial coach. So I would say between the time I met her and me having good personal credit and having money, it took about 12 years for me to kind of navigate that process.
Okay. And you mentioned something about how proud you were of your dirty tennis shoes. Can you tell us all that story again? Because I thought that was pretty powerful.
Yeah, I was hanging out with two friends and they were discussing a mutual acquaintance, dirty shoes. And in the moment, you know, I kind of felt a little bit of offense to that because I realized that they were judging her based on her shoes. And I know her personally. I know what her bank account looks like. I know that she has property. I know how much money she has. We talk about those types of things. And so I realized that they were not just trying to define her value, they were also defining their own. It was an aha moment for me that it wasn't that she was lacking anything. It was how they were viewing her based on her shoes. And I think that's a code in itself that we need to learn, that we have developed this consumption mentality that our value is based on what we wear, right? What we drive. And I see that every day. I see it in my community as well, right? I wish more people would lean into the fact that wealth building is a lifestyle, right? It's a lifestyle that you have to attend to regularly, right? And I think those small habits that we have formed in our lives around how we spend are attached to our nervous system. And some of us we have no idea about. But when I reflect back on my story of being in a club Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I had no idea, right? So I think it's when you get people in, you get an opportunity to wake them up. And so although those folks were talking about her shoes, I had in the moment the ability to kind of interject and say, hey, I think y'all are wrong about that, right? You don't get to define her value and who she is just based on the shoes that she's wearing. And so I started wearing dirty shoes because I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take this as a challenge to unpack my own consumption habits. And I'm going to wear these dirty shoes in places I wouldn't normally wear because I wanted to see, number one, how people are going to look or feel about it. But I also wanted to help my own nervous system unpack the uncomfortableness of walking into an environment where I may or may not be prejudged, but people kind of know me a little bit. They don't know me that well. And so that was my process with these dirty shoes. And hopefully the people that were engaged in that dialogue have new understanding about, you know, the value of something and how we are devaluing ourselves through our wallets.
Wow. I just love to hear that. I don't think I've heard it ever used like that as an analogy, but that's so true. So I want to end with talking about the impact that you are having. I talked to a lot of the attendees today, attended the entire thing, was starting with your keynote, talking to really some of these supporters here, everything from the amazing audio that you have, the stage manager. It's a top-notch event. So what are your thoughts about the people that you're impacting? What do you hope to achieve? And I guess what kind of feelings do you have at the end of the day when you've done an event like this that finally culminated?
I think my goal is, number one, to be of service. That's my number one goal. I'm being of service. And I think having the right people around you allow you to continue that work, right? Because as you're building, you don't have the funding necessary at the very beginning to pay everybody around you. So I have amazing volunteers that help support this event. But I think the most important thing to me is if I could help somebody avoid what happened to me, I would want that to take place. I also want people to be aware, specifically the Black community, around the fact that some of us are walking around and we're depressed and we don't know it, right? So if I can lean into that story, maybe that'll connect people out a different way. So I think the second part would be, I love hearing when people have purchased a home or they're no longer paycheck to paycheck. And when I'm walking around in my community, I hear people say, you inspired me and I did this thing. Not just that I inspired them, but they took action. And so those are the things that keep me going, that keep me passionate about the work. And it goes beyond just my story, right? It goes beyond the day of the event. And that is what I live for. I live to be of service to others. And as long as I'm staying there, I know God will be pleased with me once I meet him. Yeah.
Well, you are doing it. And I want to know finally, what is next for you? Like, do you plan on keeping a day job and sort of still balancing all of this? Like, what's the next pivot point for you?
You know, I don't know if I'm quite ready to leave work yet. I think there's a time in the journey where you make those decisions. I definitely am going to continue this work with wealth empowerment, but I'm going to kind of let my mind and body and spirit kind of navigate me in the right direction. But I will say this is my 100% passion. And I want to continue to do this work and continue to do it in the right way. And whenever, you know, that door opens, I'll be ready. I'll be ready.
But you don't have to have that decision today. Now, if someone wants to learn more about the Melanin Project or the Wealth Empowerment Conference, especially if they're in the Milwaukee, Madison area, how do they find you or learn more about what you're doing?
You can find me on my webpage, www.themelaninproject2053.com, and melanin is spelled Melanin. I'm on all social media platforms as Afra Smith, or you can look for The Melanin Project on all social media platforms. So I need to reach out to me via email. It's info@themelaninproject2053.com.
Well, thank you, Afra. This is really great. Like, I am just still in awe of you, and I appreciate what you do. I appreciate you giving me a little time today, because I know it's a busy day. You're running a whole conference over here. But to our late starters, remember, it's never too late to start. It's better late than never, and it's always the right time to catch up to 5. So, Bill, as you know, we cannot do this show without our amazing staff and the people that help us put this on. Our editor is Fritz Brazard. We love them, and they keep us going.
Yeah, Jackie, I mean, this show wouldn't have the quality it has without our folks, our peeps. And we'd also like to give you a few calls to action for the show. We love our community, and we hope you love us back. If you would like to support the show and our mission to help late starters, you can do that at Buy Me a Coffee, which is a platform that allows you to make a donation. The link is in the show notes and on the website.
Check out the show notes for resources mentioned in today's show. Also, head on over to our website at catchinguptofy.com and check out our vetted resources, partners, and affiliates for discounts and their services, because we love sharing great deals.
Please share the show with others and head on over to our Facebook community to help us grow. If you prefer video, head on over to YouTube and watch the show there. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Catching Up to 5. We would appreciate it if you could also leave us a 5-star review to help our message reach others.
And while we are financial educators that love to teach, remember that our content is for general education and information purposes only. We are not providing financial, legal, or tax advice. Always do your own research or consult a professional before making important decisions.
So, Jackie, we'll see our audience next time on Catching Up to 5. Cheers.